This Notebook LM video explores Pseudo-Dionysius' portrayal of the ninefold angelic hierarchy, meant to guide souls through stages of purification, illumination, and perfection. Arranged into three spheres, this heavenly structure found its echo in the church, where bishops, priests, and deacons mirrored the angelic triads.
You see angels everywhere, right? In movies, on TV, and all kinds of art. But what if I told you that behind that simple image of a figure with wings and a halo, there's this incredibly detailed, super ancient organizational chart for, well, for heaven itself? Yeah, you heard that right. Let's get into it.
So you've probably heard all these names thrown around. Seraphim, Cherubim, Archangels. It sounds super epic, but have you ever stopped to think, like, who reports to whom? Is there a celestial middle management? It totally sounds like a modern business school question, right? But the crazy thing is, the answer comes from a blueprint that's over 1,500 years old.
Okay, so where in the world did this super specific structure even come from? You might think it was just, cobbled together from random bits of folklore over the centuries. But nope. Turns out this entire detailed system was laid out in one single incredibly influential text from way back in the 5th century. And that text is called De Coelesti Hierarchia, which basically just means on the celestial hierarchy. It was written by this pretty mysterious figure who went by Dionysius the Areopagite. And what he did was, well, he essentially brought corporate order to the cosmos. He's the one who defined all the roles and ranks of angels in a way that literally shaped how the Western world has thought about this stuff for centuries. It's a huge deal.
Now, before we jump into the who's who of the org chart, Dionysius makes it really clear why this whole thing even exists. And it's not about power or who's the boss. Think of it more like a divine waterfall. The whole point of this structure is transmission. It's a conduit designed to let God's perfection and knowledge flow downwards, from the top all the way to the bottom, in this continuous, beautiful stream.
And this slide breaks down that whole process beautifully. According to Dionysius, it's not just about angels. Every single being in this system, from the highest, most powerful angel all the way down to you and me, is on the same journey. And it happens in 3 steps. First, purification, basically getting cleansed of all your ignorance. Then comes illumination. You receive that divine light and knowledge. And the final step is perfection, achieving the closest possible union with God. The whole point of this massive hierarchy is to help everyone along on this exact journey. All right, let's start at the very top of the org chart, the inner sanctum. This is Sphere 1, the counselors. We're talking about the beings who are right there, in the direct, completely unfiltered presence of God. This is the VIP section of the cosmos. Okay, get ready, because the beings on this slide are, well, they're not what you picture when you hear the word angel. They are seriously cosmic and abstract. At the absolute pinnacle, you have the Seraphim, the burning ones. They're described as being made of pure fire and light with 6 wings, and their entire existence is just constantly worshiping. Then you have the Cherubim, the guardians of knowledge, who famously have wings covered in eyes. A little creepy but cool. And then there are the thrones, and these are just wild. They're described as these giant interlocking fiery wheels that act as living symbols of divine justice. So yeah, these guys are not worried about your day-to-day problems. They are fundamental forces of the universe. Okay, moving one step down the celestial ladder, we land in Sphere 2, the governors. And if Sphere 1 was the C-suite, then these guys are definitely the middle managers of the cosmos. Their whole job is to take God's grand divine plan and actually make sure it gets implemented across the entire universe.
So in this sphere, the job descriptions get a little clearer. First up, the dominions. They are basically the universe's project managers. They get the divine commands from on high and delegate them to the lower ranks to make sure everything runs like clockwork. Then you have the virtues. Think of them as cosmic engineers. They're in charge of maintaining the laws of nature, keeping the planets in orbit, that kind of thing. They're also linked to miracles. And finally, the powers. These are the warrior angels, the celestial security force, defending the entire cosmos from evil and chaos.
All right, we finally made it to the third and final sphere, the messengers. And these are the angels you're probably most familiar with. This is the department that deals directly with us. They're the liaisons between the divine and the physical world, whose work is all about the day-to-day stuff happening down here on Earth.
So within this sphere, you have the Principalities. They're focused on the big picture, watching over whole nations, cities, basically guiding human history on a macro level. Stepping down from them, you have the Archangels. Now these are the rock stars, right? The famous ones like Michael and Gabriel. They're the chief messengers, delivering God's most important game-changing announcements to humanity. And then at the very last rank, you have the angels. Just angels. They're the ones who are most involved with individual people, acting as our personal guardians and messengers. This is where that massive cosmic plan finally touches down and connects with our everyday lives.
Okay, so we've got this amazing 9-level org chart for the heavens. It all seems perfectly mapped out, right? But just when you think you've got it all figured out, Dionysius hits us with a major plot twist. He argues that this entire celestial hierarchy isn't just some abstract idea for up there. No, he says it has a direct, one-to-one mirror image right here on Earth.
And check this out. This slide lays it out perfectly. For Dionysius, the structure of the church wasn't random at all. It was intentionally designed to be a perfect reflection of that angelic order. So the bishops, they mirror that first sphere of counselors. Their job is to help people toward perfection. The priests, they're the mirror of the second sphere, the governors, and their task is illumination. And the deacons, they mirror the third sphere, the messengers, and their role is purification. It's the same structure, with the exact same 3-part mission.
So this is the big takeaway, the so what of all of this. For Dionysius, this celestial org chart was never just some cool theoretical exercise. It was a practical, living blueprint. The idea was that both of these hierarchies, the one in heaven and the one on earth, were working in parallel for the exact same ultimate purpose, to guide every single soul on that journey towards what he called deification, which is just a fancy word for achieving the most perfect, closest possible union with God. I mean, it's a really powerful idea when you think about it, this deep, fundamental human need to create structure, to find patterns, to try and map the massive, unknown spiritual world using the logic of something we understand, like an organization. It's wild to think that from this ancient celestial hierarchy all the way to the corporate flowcharts we stare at in meetings today, we're basically doing the same thing, trying to bring order to chaos. This ancient system gave a kind of beautiful, logical structure to the divine, and it really makes you wonder, right? What are the huge, invisible systems we're trying to map out today? And what will our org charts of the universe even look like 1,500 years from now?